Hello students, today your homework is on proportion and recipes. So what you're going to need to be thinking about today is how to compare things, how to scale up, and how you can share things practically. So not just in a context of money, but sometimes, like in this example, we're talking about ratio for recipes. So using proportion and ratio to share recipes. For this homework, you're going to need a pen or pencil, some paper obviously, and you may find it useful to have a calculator, although set 1 students particularly probably should avoid using a calculator because you will find this on non-calculator questions, non-calculator papers. So let's get into it. Here is an example of a question which requires you to use ratio or proportion. You've got to scale this recipe up. So the first thing we need to do is read the question. The question says, here is a list of ingredients for making 10 flapjacks. 80 grams of rolled oats, 60 grams of butter, 30 milliliters of golden syrup, and 36 grams of light brown sugar. Work out the amount of each ingredient needed to make 15. Okay, 15 flapjacks. That's important. So what the question's really asking me is, how can I turn this recipe here, which is for 10 people, into a recipe for 15? And it's a very straightforward and simple bit of mathematics. You need to think about how to turn 10 into 15. Not by adding or subtracting, but by multiplying or dividing. Now, if you're in set 1, you might straight away be thinking, oh sir, times it by 1.5, which is correct. You could times it by 1.5. 10 times 1.5 is 15. Alternatively, you might say you could times it by, alternatively you might say you could divide it by 2, because what's 10 divided by 2? It is 5. And then 5 times by 3 turns it into 15. And that is the method that I am going to use. So I'm going to divide by 2 and times by 3. Now if I've done that to the scale, as in the number of people, number of flapjacks, then I need to do the same thing to each ingredient. So you are now going to do that, or rather, I am going to do that. I am going to divide each of these ingredients. I'm going to divide them by 2, which will give me something. And then I'm going to times them by 3, which will give me, I'm going to times them by 3, which will give me how much I actually need. So 80 divided by 2 is 40. 40 times 3 is 120 grams. 60 divided by 2 is 30. And 30 times by 3 is 90 grams. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 15 times 3 is, and remember I'm going that way, okay, is 45 grams. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 18 times by 3 is 54 grams. And that is the recipe, or sorry, the amounts of all the ingredients that she'll need to make 15 flapjacks. So to summarize, students, you need to think about what you need to do to 10 to turn it into 15. Okay? So you look at the two numbers, 10 and 15, and you think, how can I divide it or times it to make it into 15? And whatever you did to those numbers, so in this case I divide by 2 and times by 3, you've got to do the same thing to each ingredient. 80, divide by 2 times by 3. 60, divide by 2 times by 3. 30, and so on. Now, here is your task. So for students that are in set 1, I want you to look at this question over here on the right-hand side, okay? You can read it yourself and try and answer that question. For students in set 2 or 3, I want you to answer this yellow question down here at the bottom. To do that, you're going to need to use the ingredients listed here. And for students in set 4, 5 or 6, you need to answer this red question. So think to yourselves, students in set 4, 5 and 6, how do I turn 16 into 32? And it's a straightforward thing for that one, guys. Best of luck with that. Please make sure you take a picture and upload your answer to ClassCharts when you are complete. Thank you very much.